after God made the rattlesnake, the toad, and the vampire, he had some awful substance left with which he made a scab. A scab is a two-legged animal with a corkscrew soul, a waterlogged brain, a combination backbone of jelly and glue, where others have a heart. A scab carries a tumour of rotten principles. When a scab comes down the street, men turn their backs, the angels weep in heaven, and the devil shuts the gates of hell to keep him out. No man has a right to scab so long as there is a pool of water to drown his carcass in, or a rope long enough to hang his body with. Judas Iscariot was a gentleman compared with a scab, for after betraying his master, he had character enough to hang himself. A scab does not. Esau sold his birthright for a mess of pottage. Judas Iscariot sold his Saviour for 30 pieces of silver. Benedict Arnold sold his country for the promise of a commission in the British Army. The modern strikebreaker sells his birthright, his country, his wife, his children, and his fellow men for an unfilled promise from his employer. Esau was a traitor to himself. Judas Iscariot was a traitor to his God. Benedict Arnold was a traitor to his country. A strikebreaker is a traitor to his God, his country, his wife, his family, and his class. A real man never becomes a strikebreaker.
Chairman, our debates have been stimulating. Our debates have been constructive.
Stop! Stop!